We made it. Weekend review time. Friday. I know. I'm very tired today. This has been an exhausting week. This that's all they're all a little bit exhausting, but yeah. Sorry. This is a bad start to a podcast because as I've been saying all week long, if you're listening to these shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, there's likely a YouTube component that's also happening as well. So I would kindly ask those of you that are listening on the recorded side, hey, if you have a minute, try to pay attention to my Twitter at Dan Vespris and come hang with us on YouTube. And while I'm trying to get this show started, some of the YouTube chat room folks are attempting to guess my Facebook password. Um, and I got a little bit of a chuckle out of that. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Fantasy NBA Today podcast. It's a weekend review episode. We'll go through the ads, the drops, the holds, the watch list, the buys, the sells, the streamer board, better known to those that follow on Twitter as the burger board. It's taken on a life of its own. And then we'll get to a little weekend in review going towards the end of the show as well. So you guys kind of know by this point we're the 14th week of the fantasy basketball season. If you don't kind of know the way our Friday shows go by now, it probably ain't going to happen. But follow me on Twitter anyway, at Dan Besbris, DANBESBRIS. I used to spell that out with military letters because some of those, they do mush together a little bit. DANBESBRIS, Dan Besbris on Twitter. Follow Sports Ethos on Twitter. I have no idea how the Ethos Fantasy BK feed doesn't have like 30,000 follows. It's so good. It's the second fastest feed behind just Underdog and has fantasy analysis built in. Also, it's sourced, which I've actually tweeted at Underdog to see if maybe they'll start sourcing some of their stuff. But it's probably not fast enough. And that's what takes an extra minute or two. Make sure you got the right beat writer and all that good stuff going on. Follow Ethos Fantasy BK. Those guys are working so hard over there. And that is such a good fantasy news feed. But no need to screw around. Let's just dive right on in here. We'll start with the ads of the week. And there are only a couple of them this time around. This has been kind of a slow week for big time ads, at least in terms of non-streamer board stuff. Now, remember, we don't want to get ads and stream guys confused. The stream board is a bit of an extension of the ads, but I try to make the ad players, those that fall into this category, the guys that I think have rest of season appeal. Streamer board is not rest of season. They are ads. Yes, from a technical sense, you're still adding them to your team, but you're adding them with the idea that there's a finite timeline on how long they'll be on your basketball club. What I could do, I suppose, to make life simpler is not split the two apart, but instead list the streamers as ads and then, how long or what player they're tied to. But I count on all of you guys to be kind of aware enough to make that call yourselves. So sorry if I'm making you do a little bit more work, but that's just the way it is. Jalen Duren is the first on our ads board. I don't think that there's going to be much in the way of argument on the ads this week either. Duren looked amazing in his return yesterday for the Pistons. He only played 18 minutes, but that'll ramp up. He hadn't played in about 2 weeks. They traveled abroad. It'd be a weird time to just drop him back in for 35 minutes. But he had 11 points, 12 boards, a steal, 2 blocks, 4 for 4 shooting. The defensive stats were a bit fluky for Duren. He doesn't typically block that many shots, but it does feel like he can get over 1 combined defensive stat, even if you're not going to expect 3. The rebounding is repeatable. We've seen this. He is a monster on the glass. Get him back on your fantasy team if he somehow got dropped during either the injury or simply the fact that Detroit only had a 1-game week. I know plenty of head-to-head leagues where he got dumped because a team just couldn't sit out a 1-gamer that might have actually turned into a 0-gamer because we didn't even know if he was going to play. Next name on the ads board. And I know we're moving fast through the ads, but again, I really feel like these are self-explanatory. Cam Johnson made his return for the Suns last night. That was also fun. He played 22 minutes and was flat out brilliant. This is way more than any of us expected. I certainly didn't have the stones to play him in any of my roto leagues in a first game back after missing, 2.5 months? Almost 3? He was out forever. 19 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 2 3-pointers, 9 for 9 free throw shooting. Now, this type of line probably doesn't hold as the team gets healthy. He's not going to have 30 usage, which was, I think, second on the team among the regulars behind actually DeAndre Ayton, interestingly, yesterday. Now, Devin Booker saps most of it. Chris Paul's going to take a bunch of it, but Cam is really good. And the reason the Suns have kind of been willing to squat on Jay Crowder all year while he's been demanding a trade and not trying to do something sooner is that they have a lot of faith that Cam's going to be the 30 some odd minute guy when he gets healthy, and he's excellent. We saw it last year. We don't need, again, I don't know why I'm even going into this much detail on Johnson, but I did get some questions that were like, hey, what can we reasonably expect from Cam once he gets ramped up to full tilt? Well, he's inside the top 75 right now in 25 minutes per ball game. His production per minute will taper off a little bit. Maybe look more towards the beginning of the year, when he played 31 minutes and had like 19 points, 7 boards, but not a ton in the defensive stats category. You can't expect him to rack up steals and blocks. Another time to look at it would be those handful of games late last year when Jay Crowder was hurt or Devin Booker. Now it's different because, when Booker's hurt, the shots are going to go up way higher. When Crowder was out, the playing time went up and the shots per minute didn't actually change all that much. But when he was out there for 30 plus minutes, he was scoring between 12 and 20 points pretty much every single ball game, reliably, getting you generally between 4 and 6 rebounds per game, 1 or 2 assists. He's not a big passing guy. He can get you about a steal, maybe a tiny bit over that, but also like 2 to 3 3-pointers per game. And he's a good foul shooter. So yes, the per minute production does probably level off and come down, but he's a mid-80s foul shooter. He is efficient while also hitting a bunch of 3-pointers. I think you should be excited. I think he's got top 75 appeal, which is really, really good. Think about it. That's like the end of 6th, beginning of 7th, basically. And the third name on the ads, and I don't know why he needs to be back on this board, but I actually got a question earlier today as to whether someone should add Walker Kessler. And I'm like, are we all looking at the same thing here? Because, let's look at the last month for Kessler. You don't need to look at the entire season. If we look at the last month, and this is the screen that's being shared, he's number 55 over the last month. That's a long time to know that he needs to be picked up and still to be wondering if he should be picked up. I don't mean to yell at everybody, but come on. Let's get into the drops next. Isaiah Stewart, I believe, is a drop now that Jalen Duren is back. We saw when he was power forward, he simply wasn't putting up fantasy value because the rebounds come down. The near the bucket stuff comes down for Stewart in those spots, meaning fewer blocks as well. He slides away from the basket. Field goal percent goes down. 3-pointers might go up, but I don't care. That's not why you want a center on your team. Daniel Gafford is a drop. I know, sad times with these. It seemed like he was going to stick a bit because they were playing better when Gafford was seeing big-time minutes. But there are just enough options now for the Wizards to kind of mix and match a little bit. They'll try to figure out what fits on any given night. Some nights that might still be Gafford, but a lot of nights it won't be. And we need it to be every night, or at least like 3 out of every 4 nights, and we can't make that promise right now. Jared Vanderbilt. There's a lot of centers, by the way, on the drops list. Jared Vanderbilt is a drop. We're seeing it with Lauri Markkanen coming back. Kelly Olynyk still not even back in the picture yet, and he probably does slot in and pushes Markkanen down to small forward, and Walker Kessler sticks there. There's really only room for one between Vanderbilt and Kessler in the Jazz rotation on a regular basis. They are the rebounding big men that don't spread the floor. Everybody else is supposed to spread wide and create a lot of room. Meaning, if Kessler's on the way up, Vanderbilt pretty much has to be on the way down. And if he's already on the way down when Olynyk's still out, Kelly is a floor spacer. So there's room for him in a way where there just isn't for Vanderbilt. And Kessler's a better rim protector than Vanderbilt. So that's why he's kind of winning that battle. Thomas Bryant is a drop, which, again, I could have just taken him off the stream board, but I felt like it needed to be like a little bit more emphatic in what I was doing here. He's being played off the floor by opposing teams, and Lakers have the Grizzlies coming up, which is going to be rough on Thomas Bryant. That game screams terrible matchup. And the only way he has a better ball game is if Memphis kind of just cakewalks into this one. But if LeBron is playing, which he's questionable, I think LeBron sits this one out. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a word on that. But this feels like the kind of game where LeBron might just, take a day off because the Lakers ain't going to win it whether or not he plays, and just make sure he gets himself right for the next one. It looks like the whole team's getting a little bit tired based on what we saw in that Kings game. That's the only way I could see Bryant have a better game, is if LeBron sits and Memphis is like, oh, so we don't really have to try tonight. And then they just sort of coast. But we're seeing the Grizzlies smash teams even when there is that risk of coasting. So I think Bryant's a drop. Basically, everybody the Lakers have played lately has been able to get at him, and he can't stop anyone in the paint. He has zero defensive ability. For a while, Lakers were playing a ton of drop, and teams were settling for wide open jumpers. And now they're like, well, we don't even need to. Like, we can go right at a dropped Thomas Bryant and still score an easy layup. He can't stop him even when he has 7-8 feet of room to back up. And I put Dennis Schroeder on this list because people kept asking, hey, what about Dennis Schroeder? And on this very podcast, I have said many times, his fantasy game doesn't really translate. He needs everybody to be out and getting like 15 to 20 shots for it to work. And you can't promise that. And also, he cooled off after a hot run, which, again, law of large numbers. So, drop away. This is where we pause the recorded side to say hello to everybody that has now jumped in and joined us on the live viewing side. It's also one of a couple of times during a show where I like to stop and try to get a couple of tweets out about it, but I don't have a producer. That's me. And I can't do all of those things at the same time. So what I will say to you all is hi to all the folks that have joined us since I started the official recorded show. Welcome. Please click the thumbs up. Many of you have done it. I love that you're getting in the habit of just clicking that thumbs up when you log into the show. But if any of you are watching and haven't, hit that thumbs up. And please do subscribe to the YouTube page while I send out this retweet of my own thing. All right. There's one. And let's see. Well, why don't we get one out from one of our fantasy feeds as well? I know this is really bad YouTube, but honestly, I don't care. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to pop in and join us. So do hit that thumbs up button. I think only one or two of you did it as I just asked you. Do it now and subscribe, and let's get back to it. Plus, I need water sometimes, and I'm sick of having sipping noises on the recorded podcast. Sorry, everybody. All right, let's do this thing. Holds are next on the board. The holds. There was one week where I called them tough holds, and people got really upset because they were like, this guy's not that tough to hold. And I was like, you're missing the point. Tough hold just means that maybe there was a person that was like, do I need to hold on to this guy? These are the holds right now. Sadiq Bey is a hold. I have a feeling he does still fall off, but I want to give it a little bit longer because he still looked pretty good in the last one. And the question becomes, as Jalen Duren's minutes ramp up, we know Isaiah Stewart gets pushed farther from the bucket. So just from a fantasy standpoint, yes, it hurts Stewart a lot. But on the Bey front, is it more about the minutes? Because if we take the minutes away, then the shots go down. Sadiq Bey only valuable when he's getting a whole lot of looks at the bucket. And he has been lately with some guys hurt in front of him and so on and so forth. But I would say hold on to him for now. Let's see how this thing plays out. They're probably, he played well, so I don't know that this is something that really needs to be said after a better ball game. The holds tend to be a list of guys that I throw at you after quieter games, but I wanted to get some opinions in there on Bay while I had a moment. And Mike Conley is another dude coming off a better ball game. So probably I don't need to tell you to hold on to him, but I'm going to. And I can see I've left this shared screen on a highlighted Walker Kessler. But yeah, like with Conley, we saw him settling into that, what I've been describing as kind of just like steering the ship. But lately, he's been a little bit more engaged. And I want to see if that sticks now that Larry Markkanen's back. I hope it does. I'm not convinced on it. Now, these middle four names are probably a little bit tougher to hold, and I'll tell you why I am for each of them. The easiest of the four is Kyle Lowry, because we know the Heat get banged up. Jimmy Butler's eventually going to miss a ball game. Hero's going to miss a game. Victor Oladipo, who's on this list, is going to miss games. Lowry has a ton of built-in potential in that way, where when the team is fully healthy, he's probably more like an 70 to 100 range guy. But we saw that when a couple of guys are down, one guy's down, he moves up to 60, two guys are down, he's top 50. Like there's all that built in, and then there's still the high floor of just being a full-time starting point guard. So don't drop Kyle Lowry. Guys throw through these little slumps. The old men players, everybody gets so mad on the internet when they have one or two quiet weeks, and we got to go through this same silly dance over and over again and come back to the same spot in the end. Second easiest one, I think, is Josh Hart. He's been really good most of the year. He's having a confidence issue, and frankly, the Blazers are losing, so he's got to get this thing figured out, I think, soon. I'm not dropping him, but from a team perspective, I think he needs to get this thing figured out. So hold on to Hart. Victor Oladipo, probably the third easiest among these to hang on to. I'm not fully convinced that he's going to have 9 cat value when the team's fully healthy, but they're coming off a blowout. So it's really hard to get a feel for what everybody was on the Heat in that last ball game. We need to see at least one, probably more like 2 or 3 more. And that's the same general idea with the last name on this list, which is DeAnthony Melton, who's looked flat out awful over the last, 3-ish games now. He has done next to nothing in those contests. However, his minutes were back up at starters level minutes in their last ball game. And that's, to me, that's something. Because there are a few games in there where the minutes weren't particularly high. He was down at like 22 or something like that. And that worried me. But the minutes going back up to where they should be was a positive note, even if the situation still remains kind of bad. The situation remaining bad, what I mean by that is, and I've said it on the show before, he's with the starters, which other than PJ Tucker, these are guys that are all going to go get shots up and handle the basketball. James Harden is running the pick and roll. Joel Embiid is doing all of his stuff with the pick and roll, sometimes in the post. Tobias Harris is playing off of those guys. He's going to be the first option. That's not one of the two main superstars. So Melton is left with very little to do. And that's not good for his fantasy value. But we've seen it before. It tends to take him a week or two to kind of figure out what is he supposed to do in his new surrounding. And every time something happens with that team, it's Melton that has to be the guy who adjusts. He's the adjuster. He was coming off the bench when the team was healthy at the beginning of the year. He figured it out, started to kind of take control a little bit of that bench unit, moved into the starting unit when James Harden or when Embiid went down first, started to drop back towards the bench. James Harden went down for a while. Then a bunch of guys were out, and he was just going nuts because Tyrese Maxey was out forever. So they just kept changing what they needed Melton to be doing. Play off of Harden, play off of Embiid, play off of no one, drive the ship. Now it's play off of everybody. Okay, I'm going to not really assert myself for a little bit, and then I'll settle in. But he still has that base of big defensive stats. He gets a ton of steals. He does get some blocks from a guard spot. He tends to actually rebound and assist all right, although, again, in the starters unit, you have to assume that is going to come down a little bit. What I want to see is, as he gets comfortable, we're talking about DeAnthony Melton right now, as he gets comfortable with this starters bunch, does he then start to do a little bit more? And I'm inclined to think the answer is probably yes. So let's give him a little bit longer. It's not an infinite leash. If he's terrible for another 2 or 3 ball games, we probably end up moving on. But to me, it's got to be a little bit longer than this. Let's move on to the watch list. Saban Lee's on the watch list. I think Chris Paul will probably be back not too far. He was ruled out the morning of the ball game of their contest on Thursday. By the next one, he probably gets a little closer, maybe to game time before being ruled out, something like that. I would expect Chris Paul back within the next week. And Lee had a good game coming off the bench, so I don't know how much we can trust him anyway. Dwight Powell and Dorian Finney-Smith are on the watch list, mostly because we don't know what's going to happen here. Kind of buried the lead on that piece of news, and frankly, I kind of forgot that it had happened until we got on air. But Christian Wood was hurt, or the diagnosis came out yesterday. He has a fracture in his non-shooting hand. He's going to be reevaluated in a week. We saw something similar with Domantas Sabonis. He basically just took a day off and then played through it. Sabonis is different. Every fracture is a little bit different. Wood's going to take a week off and then kind of see how it goes, which obviously terrible news for Christian Wood. But does it elevate anyone else on the Mavericks is the big question. I love any center playing big minutes with Luka Doncic because they're going to have opportunity. If that turns out to be Dwight Powell playing 28 plus minutes per ball game while Wood is out, then he becomes a must-stream kind of guy. If they mix and match, do we see some JaVale McGee? Maxi Kleber's still out. Do you even see maybe a super small ball Finney-Smith at the 5? If it's a lot of mixing and matching, it becomes hard to grab any of those dudes. But Dorian Finney-Smith would probably have the best path to value if some of his minutes now slide up to the center spot. More blocks, more rebounds, things that he doesn't get a ton of anyway. But if you start to click those up a little bit, he becomes pretty interesting. I actually added Emmanuel Quickley in a couple of spots. He's the next name on my watch list, but I actually did kind of pre-add him in a few places. And I think I differ from a lot of what I was seeing on social media when Mitchell Robinson was diagnosed with thumb stuff. And we talked about it, I think, on yesterday's show, that I think the Knicks are going to go small a little bit more, meaning previously it was Mitchell Robinson for starters level minutes at the center spot, a smattering of center minutes for Isaiah Hartenstein, a smattering of minutes at times for Jericho Sims, and then Julius Randle filled in the rest, whatever that was, a couple of minutes here and there, but not very much. I don't think Mitchell Robinson's minutes are just going to get clumped in the middle and handed off to Hartenstein and Sims. Frankly, those guys haven't deserved to split 30 extra minutes per ball game. What I believe is going to happen is that those guys maybe split like 20 of them, and you see an extra, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 center minutes from Julius Randle, which means the best player from the bench that's not a center probably sees extra time, and that's been Emmanuel Quickley all season long. So perhaps he goes from 24, 25 minutes a game up to closer to 30 during this stretch, in which case he becomes a streamable player. It's pretty weird to hear a center go down and like the smallest dude on the team is the guy that wins out. But I actually think there's a decent chance that that's what happens. Would I advise all of you to pre-add Emmanuel Quickley? I don't know if you have to. He was in the process of being dropped in a lot of leagues because the Knicks were getting healthy. So he might still be on some teams just kind of lingering from the RJ Barrett and Jalen Brunson injuries. But you might the Knicks have a game here coming up. When do they play? They're at 4:30 Pacific time tonight. They're in Atlanta at 4:30. You might know by halftime. If Quickley plays 15 first half minutes, you might just grab him then. And then KJ Martin is on this list because Jabari Smith Jr. got hurt and Kevin Porter Jr. is still out. And, how many juniors can you jam into one roster? KJ just would continue to see more and more and more every time somebody goes down. His game isn't super roto-friendly. Free throws in particular have been trouble. Both percentages, I think, at times have been a problem for him. But it does feel like he'll rack up enough counting stats with all of those guys down. I mean, these are Kevin Porter Jr. and then Jabari Smith. That's like the 1 and the 3 usage guys on that team. Typically, I don't know how we feel about Eric Gordon there, but that means a lot more for everybody else. That's your watch list for now. Let's do the buy lows. There are two of them. I don't have any sells right now, interestingly enough. And it's not that some guys aren't doing better. It's that I don't think they've done better long enough to make their value stick as a perception. Like Jordan Poole's been better, and the Warriors are sitting their entire team tonight. So Poole's going to go nuts in this Friday evening game. But I think overall his efficiency is just getting better. He's starting to be more like the Poole we saw last year. But you're not going to get a good enough thing for him. Like he might just ride top 50 now for a month or two, but you're probably not going to be able to get that back for him if you sent him out. So that's why there aren't any sell highs right now. Two buy lows we've talked about over the course of the week. Bogdan Bogdanovic, who is going to have a hot game at some point here, and then this is not going to be something you can buy low on anymore. And then Jakob Poeltl, we did a little segment on him. I think that was 2 shows back, where someone might be panic selling Poeltl thinking he's going to nosedive, when in fact he probably just levels off around where he's been anyway. So if you can get him for slightly less than his current rank, that's got to be the target there. That's why that's something that you would consider doing. Streamer boards coming up after this very quick reminder again to like and subscribe to our YouTube page, and also to follow me on Twitter. I haven't been yelling at the YouTube folks nearly enough. This is a really, really, really big deal. The Twitter handle at Dan Besbris is the hub of everything I do on the fantasy side. I'll send out podcast links, YouTube links. I do, all the names that you're seeing here that we're talking about on this show, they all get sent out on Twitter. We do like what we're watching for on a given night, the watch list. We do nightly recaps. There's a lot. Pickups and drops as news breaks on Twitter. I try to get analysis out there when I can. The burger board, the streaming board. As we get towards the fantasy playoffs, we're going to do an actual schedule streaming thing every day. That's all here at Dan Besbris on Twitter. It's in the description of the YouTube show. If you just scroll down and open that up, it's like the 3rd paragraph in there. I think there's actually some stuff that's wrong in the description of this show, so skip over that. Something got cut and pasted from last week. But it's Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. I expect to see you over on social media. I don't ask, I expect. If you're not over there, we're missing some stuff. But let's get back in and do the streamer board. We're going to kind of lightning our way through the stream board because they're all relatively straightforward, and I'll give you the stream, and then I'll give you the player that you want to throw them with, or the player that they're sort of attached to in terms of like, how long should I be doing this thing? It's all relatively straightforward. I don't think there's anything too crazy. But what I've also tried to do here is cut down the stream board to only players that I feel extremely confident are going to have value. And if I don't, then I've notated them, and I'll do so here on the podcast. Slow-mo, easy one. He's been crushing lately. We got so many slow-mos on all these teams, and I'm hoping you guys do as well. That's tied to Karl Anthony Towns. Naz Reid has been excellent lately. Could have even been better if not for some foul trouble. That's tied to Rudy Gobert. Andrew Nembhard and TJ McConnell tied to Tyrese Halliburton. They've each been ranging from fine to very good on a given night. Nembhard looked much better in their last one, so he's coming around. McConnell's been dominant. Trey Murphy, who is getting his confidence back a little bit. That one's tied to all sorts of stuff. Everybody's hurt on the Pelicans. Dennis Smith Jr. tied to LaMelo Ball. Richaun Holmes tied to Domantas Sabonis, who might very well be back, so that one could get wiped off the board here before the ball game. Grayson Allen, which is another one that could get wiped off because we were hearing that Giannis and Chris Middleton might be back for the Bucks tomorrow. That's a Saturday game. 2 names on the streamer board that are kind of teetering for me. Karis LeVert, he had a really good game with Donovan Mitchell out, but he's been kind of hit or miss even when a superstar's been down. And also we saw, the word is that Donovan Mitchell actually went through a bunch of the Cavs practice, so he might even be back for their next ball game. And then Najee Marshall, who does a really good job with points, boards, and assists, but has struggled in the other 6 fantasy categories. So he does profile a bit more as some sort of, you want to put the range between specialist and points league type of guy. But I put him on the board because he does get a lot of those popcorny stats, and there's a place for that on a lot of teams as well. Okay, that's the stream board. I went through it fast. We're also going to do a weekend preview, and I'm going to do this relatively fast as well because we're going to look at all 30 teams in the weekend preview, and then we kind of loop back around on Monday and go through it and see what happened. So we'll just start with tonight. We'll go through the games as they're coming. And we had a couple of folks actually say that this was their favorite part of some of these shows, is kind of getting ready for the evening. How do we prepare ourselves on the fantasy side for what's coming up? And then kind of what do we do with certain pieces of information if we then get it? New Orleans, Brandon Ingram already ruled out. He'll show up at some point, maybe. We don't know. Maybe he won't. Perhaps Brandon Ingram has fallen into a wormhole. Someone's finally catching up on his episodes of Manifest. Trey Murphy, to me, is a star. We just talked about Najee Marshall as well. I don't think that I'd go much farther than that, although Jose Alvarado is streamable if you need steals and like 4 assists. Orlando, we've kind of gotten a reset on the Magic here lately, and it's effectively kind of the core dudes at this point, and I wouldn't go beyond that with them. Jonathan Isaac actually got reassigned to the Magic, but he's not set to play in this ball game. Conditioning is kind of coming around these days. That'll be a really interesting thing to follow when it shows up. I don't know what we're going to do with it necessarily, but again, Roto Games Cap, this is your opportunity to pick him up and sit on him and basically look to see what you get from Isaac like 3 weeks from now. Golden State, everybody's resting in this one, so have at it, man. The player I would trust the most would be Dante DiVincenzo behind Jordan Poole, who's already on rosters. If you want to go for kind of that one game burst, Dante would be a good one. Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell is questionable. We haven't had a final ruling on him yet. Hopefully he goes, but they should be somewhat cautious with it. We shall see. If he doesn't play, as we just talked about, whether we use Karis LeVert is still kind of floating in the balance. Miami, relatively healthy. I'd like to see what Victor Oladipo is going to do now that everybody's kind of back around for them, but that not much else with the Heat. Dallas, first game without Christian Wood. Can we get good performances from Powell or Finney-Smith? Be ready to act on Dallas. This is an interesting spot. Again, the Christian Wood stuff, he's reevaluated in 1 week. Reevaluated, so it could be longer. From a schedule standpoint, they play every other day, starting today and going through the next 5 ball games, I think. So their schedule is fine, if unspectacular. But that does mean that they do still have 2 games the rest of this week, which matches the most that anybody can have over a 3-day stretch. So there may be something there if you want to get out in front of it. The Knicks, I'm watching Emmanuel Quickly more than I'm watching even the backup centers on that team. Atlanta, Clint Capella seems to have regained that starting spot. Bogdan Bogdanovic, we've talked about as a possible buy low. Clippers are in San Antonio. It sounds like the Stars will be back for LA in what should be a cakewalk, although we'll see how it goes. The minutes for Paul George is kind of the only thing I'm concerned with. And then I guess we can keep tabs on Terrence Mann as more of a head-to-head type of play when the schedule allows. For the Spurs, there really isn't much right now. You're just sort of sitting and watching to see if anybody's going to get moved. Someone will. But when? We're under 3 weeks from the trade deadline. Brooklyn, on the back-to-back, they got to get a win. I would have thought they might have rested some folks, but it's an altitude back-to-back. However, they're not coming from a late Pacific time game. They're coming from... where the hell was No, they were. Where is Phoenix on Pacific time right now? I lose track of this stuff. That's a good question. Phoenix fluctuates. It's one of the states that doesn't go in between. I believe they are on Pacific time right now, but I'm not 100% sure. So this would actually be a really tough game. The travel is shorter than if you're coming from like the farthest reaches of Pacific time. Like Portland would be rough. But Brooklyn's going to have to play because they can't just afford to lose every single ball game when Kevin Durant comes down. What does that mean for fill-ins? Well, I've kind of moved on from Royce O'Neal. It just doesn't seem like any of these guys is going to be able to stick necessarily. Utah. Let's get another look at Mike Conley here. He's like I know it's weird that he's the guy I'm watching, but I want to see him do more. And they're better. The Jazz are better when he does do more. I am less concerned with all these other fringy guys because I think they've pretty much all fallen off. Indiana, same stuff as usual. The Halliburton fill-ins, that's about it. Denver, Nikola Jokic just got ruled questionable. Last time they gave him a day off, there was no real winner because the whole team just kind of gets worse when he's not playing. Oklahoma City, no changes there. Almost nothing, actually, that I'm paying attention to. Kenrich Williams is sort of this, like, if you catch him on a back-to-back, maybe that's worthwhile. Sacramento, Domantas Sabonis, Rashawn Holmes, that's the only thing to watch there other than, if Sabonis doesn't play, we also saw Keegan Murray got a bounce because of the rebounding stuff. So that also does come into the mix. But then beyond that, it's all the sort of other guys that are on rosters. They just do a little bit more. Memphis is in LA. This game should be a throttling. And I do still think maybe LeBron sits it out, which means if you want to get out in front of it, perhaps Dennis Schroeder is something to just float out there. But you can always wait on the injury news. Maybe LeBron plays. Maybe he thinks that they have a shot in this game. I just don't. Memphis is the hottest team in the NBA, and they're not just sneaking by clubs. They are brutalizing teams. Anyway, let's go to Saturday. Boston, nothing. Now that they're healthy, it's the starting five. In all of your faces. Yeah, there, I said it. In all of your faces, those of you who keep giving me crap on Al Horford. He's number 65 in 9-cat. What's your problem, everybody? Sick of it. Toronto, starters. Orlando, we talked about. Washington, the Daniel Gafford thing is indeed a little bit upsetting. Keep an eye on DeLon Wright. He's been looking better. I'd love to see his minutes trend up from where they generally have been. He had that one game where he played more, but it's hard for me to see it sticking. They just have kind of too many guards when they're healthy. And wings, frankly, that can slide down and play shooting guard. Charlotte, likely no LaMelo Ball. I think he's been ruled out for this game already. So Dennis Smith Jr. and then also what it means for anybody else. Ton of Terry Rozier. If he can keep his recent efficiency up and add a bunch of the LaMelo Ball touches, I don't want to get greedy or anything, but I'm going to get greedy. Milwaukee, we talked about. Middleton, Giannis, perhaps back tomorrow. Cleveland, already discussed. Houston, again, if there's no Jabari Smith Jr. and no Kevin Porter Jr., then how does that shake up some of the usage out there? KJ Martin, etc. Minnesota, Rudy Gobert's status is kind of the only thing you're paying attention to. Phoenix, the next ball game, you're watching to see if Chris Paul perhaps gets back in the mix. I don't think anybody else is all that close. I think Landry Shamet is... Actually, I don't know what his deal is. We might see Landry Shamet for that ball game. Philly, you're watching DeAnthony Melton, and then we talked about Sacramento, and then who doesn't go? Here's the old who doesn't go game. Sunday, Clippers we talked about, Dallas we talked about, New Orleans, Miami, New York, Toronto, Memphis, Phoenix, OKC, Denver, Brooklyn, Golden State, Lakers, and Blazers, I think might be the only team. And then, of course, you've got the Bulls and Pistons that don't play all weekend long, so no reason to talk about those clubs. Portland, I would like to see if anything kind of shifts there. They've just been mostly in free fall outside of picking on the Mavs, who were just completely beat after the Lakers' billion overtime win. And then Luka sat in the second game of their little head-to-head. But the Blazers have basically lost every other ball game they played. Do they have to change anything? It feels like they do, but we shall see. And then Golden State, we know everybody's sitting this ball game. They're giving different reasons for a lot of them. Klay Thompson, injury management. Draymond Green, toe. Steph Curry, hip. Andrew Wiggins was foot or something. I don't think any of these are real. I would assume they're all back for that Warriors next ball game, but just keep sort of one half an eye on it. And then we'll talk about all that stuff when we loop back around on Monday. Recorded listeners, I love you all forever. You've been with me so long. Come join us on YouTube next time. Hit up the chat room with questions and hang out over there. Again, I am at Dan Bespris on Twitter. Also, bug me if you want to cover a team. I'm going to throw that back out there again today on this podcast. If you want to cover a team for Sports Ethos, basketball, baseball, football, hockey, whatever it might be, toss me a line. Why don't you? At Dan Vespers on Twitter. Say, Dan, I'm interested in covering a team. And I'll reply to you. We can DM about it. Maybe it's something that kickstarts a sports coverage career for you. Who knows? Who knows? Again, that's at Dan Vespers over on Twitter. Have a great weekend, everybody. Reverse chronological lightning round Monday on the other side, and we will talk to you all then. Now, YouTubers, don't worry, everybody. Our party has just begun. I'm going to close out that box score window, so you're going to get a big, fat picture of Dan's head in the way now. Yuck. Yuck. Hey, a bunch of you have joined up since the last time I took one of these little mid-show breaks. Post questions. Post questions. I think it's this side or down below or whatever you're looking at. Post questions in the YouTube chat. We're about to get into those right now. This is a great opportunity for it. And again, you know, if you're posting questions and you're enjoying what's going on, hit that thumbs up button, man. Let's get us up and over 40. This is a pretty good number in this one. I feel like we go up a little bit every week, and that's kind of the point, I guess, is to get more of you tuned in on what we're trying to do here with YouTube. One thing I forgot to do today was to pivot the camera so you don't see the very edges of my fake backdrop here. Hit the like button. I want to see that get over 40 before I start to get into the questions. Also hit subscribe. I'm not tracking those, but I'm trusting that some of you are going to do it. And then those of you who are watching after the fact, please also hit the like button. I really do appreciate it. Tama says he wants me to put the music back on for the Q&A session. So screw it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to put it on nice and quiet, and the music's going to roll here. So I think that's going now. Yeah, it's going. Okay, there's the music. The other thing I wanted to mention to all of you folks hanging around on YouTube here is that we've got all this cool stuff coming to YouTube also, that not just me a bunch of times. I hope you guys have caught Eric Hong's Waiver Wire show on Sundays. That'll be coming up this Sunday as well. So hopefully you guys are subscribed to the YouTube page so you can make sure you're on board with that one. He also does a Q&A segment. Joe and Steve do the weekly preview show. We call it the weekly lineup show. That's on Mondays, where they go through weekly schedule, streaming calendars, injuries, and also take questions from the YouTube chat. And then I'm trying to do this show on here Tuesdays through Fridays whenever I can right now. But the biggest news, I mentioned this a couple days ago as well, the great Aaron Brewski is coming back, baby. And he's coming back with YouTube as part of it. Oh, yes. He will be hosting his own YouTube show on Wednesday evening Pacific time, early evening Pacific time Wednesday, mid-evening for Eastern time. That's basically going to be called the Brewski Breakdown. I don't know if you guys remember the Brewski Breakdown, but Aaron was over at Roto World, and he wrote these like many 1,000-word recaps that covered basically every team in the NBA. That's kind of what that show is going to be. It's going to be amazing. And then he's going to be joining me on our Friday shows here. So this one that I'm doing right now, today, Friday show, next week, should be the two of us. Format's going to be a little different. We're not going to go through every ad and every drop and every hold and every watch list and every stream. We're going to be talking about the biggest pieces of information that happened over the course of the week. And then we'll probably get some of those Q&As into the actual main part of the show instead of a kind of a post-show thing like we do now. This is like effectively Fantasy NBA Today overtime or something like that. All right, we got up to that's absolutely too loud. All right, let me bring it back down. It's only at number 11 out of 100. Let's go 6. It sounds so quiet in my headset. I don't know for sure what makes sense here. All right, let's get into the live chat now. We did get up and over 40 likes, so many thank yous there. Let's see if we can sneak a few in. To the top we go. Oh my God, there's a lot. Whoo! Rockets. No, I did not make the opening music, and I'm glad that you asked. That was Slick Rock, baby. Let me see if I can find his... I think Slick Rock might be actually his Twitter handle as well. Slick RACH. There we go. Let me give you Isaac's handle here. I just posted that in the chat room. That's going to be down at the bottom. I'll throw it up on the screen actually for just a second. That's a Twitter handle of the dude who made the opening jams for this show. He's tight. Friend of the program, Slick Rock. He is also one of the moderators of our forums. You may not know this. Yes, Beans, you are correct. Get the likes in, man. Let's get them all. I want 100% likes. Nemhard for Dennis Smith Jr. This is a tough one because we're sort of just guessing which superstar is going to be out longer, Halliburton or LaMelo. I get the feeling Halliburton's out longer, so I might stand pat there. Yeah, Marcus Smart for DeJounte Murray, absolutely. Dennis Smith Jr. and Keegan Murray, or I don't know what this is in reference to. Maybe I said something at the beginning of the show that I don't remember saying. I would rather have Dennis Smith Jr. over Keegan Murray for whatever that's worth. I don't know if that's the point. I may have missed the question there. Go to deli sandwich, pastrami, baby. However, I will admit that in terms of Jewish star points that I get here on the show, I am Jewish, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that already. I don't do pastrami on rye. I find rye crust to be a little abrasive, so I go challah. Pastrami on challah bread. I feel like I still get like 8 out of 10 points for that from my heritage. Drop Rosen over Harrison Barnes or Kessler instead of. Yeah, see, this is the thing. Cole, you got to have Walker Kessler. He's a rest of season play. He's been amazing lately. So, yes, Walker Kessler forever. He's not a streamer spot either. Presto. Yeah, I don't like I was saying, I don't like him. I like Emmanuel quickly to pick up a lot of the slack in New York. That was what I was referring to earlier in the pod. I'm going to jump over some of these things. Lakers should have signed Saban Lee this offseason. Yeah, you're probably right. Although, I mean, if Austin Reeves is healthy and Lonnie Walker's healthy, I don't know how badly they need a point guard, an extra point guard. They need wings. Right now is when they probably should have signed Saban Lee before the Suns got to him because they've got all these guys out. But the NBA is won and lost typically by wing defenders these days. Like the best teams have good wings. And the Lakers have, I like Troy Brown Jr. I've got like a good wing. Lonnie Walker's a wing. He's not defensive minded. He can score quite a lot. So yeah, I mean that's a move they probably should have made. Lakers went Sterling Brown instead, and then they haven't even bothered to play it. Yeah, I thought Gafford might be in there as well. Nope. You think Tim Hardaway Jr. gains some value, takes more shots with Christian Wood out, him or KCP and 9-Cat head to head? I like KCP because I think you can trust his percentages better. Tim Hardaway Jr. is kind of like the shoot the moon option there, which is fine if you want to really go hard on points and hope that you kind of catch lightning in a bottle. Then it's THJ. KCP is a guy you can hold rest of season too. They're both kind of fringy. Caldwell Pope probably just a little bit in front. Sure, yeah. Stash-worthy names. Think about the guys most likely to get traded. I think they're typically big men. I've mentioned this in the show before. I think Mason Plumlee could get moved. So Mark Williams is interesting. My favorites are probably Spurs, big men. Zach Collins or Charles Bassey. It feels like Jakob Poeltl has to get moved, but I guess we don't know for sure. But Collins would be the guy that would likely take a jump, unless he also gets moved, in which case then you've got Bassey and his furious big man stats. Gil's yelling at us here. Would you trade Tatum for Donovan Mitchell and Jonas Valanciunas? No, actually. I think JV eventually falls off here, and Tatum's just been absolutely incredible. Best rest of season, Larry Markin or Desmond Bane? Well, Bane more categories, I guess. Markin, I think just an overall rank, he probably wins that. Should I offer Killian Hayes to the CC owner for false? CC owner. Oh, Cade Cunningham, Dynasty. I worked my way through that, and I was like, who's playing that say CC right now? It's someone who's not playing. Yes. I don't think it'll work, but I think you should do it. Who would you realistically trade Giannis for in a category league? There's really only one way to trade Giannis, and it's find a team that's already bad at free throws and then ask for like basically a first rounder back, because that's what he is when you're punting free throws. But if you're not punting free throws, you're not going to get anything back that you want. Who's the first drop if something hot surfaces? Probably Nas Reed. I like Nas, but I don't think Rudy's gonna be out all that long. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think Rudy's probably back in the next week, 2 at the most. Now, in those 2 weeks, Nas probably does more than maybe all of these guys, but I think this is Roto, if I'm not mistaken. That's why Jonathan Isaac is there. So you're always kind of looking ahead. So it's probably Nas, unless we hear something bad about Gobert. Hello, Ricardo. So that must be Llorens then. What do we got here? Oh, this is part of a conversation. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but if Melton figures this out, then he turns back into a rest of season guy, and we also know that if anybody gets hurt on Philadelphia for even one game, D'Anthony's a guy who gets a bump. Yeah, I don't think he will. They just don't trust any of these guys to do full starters minutes anymore. Unfortunately, no, slow-mo probably doesn't last past a cat return. At least not at this level. Like, maybe he goes top 120, kind of schedule streaming on slow-mo, but not at this level. I gotta move faster here. Sorry, guys, I gotta start going faster. Zach Collins has value in a 9-cat league. Not right now, but if Pirtle gets moved, then absolutely. Cade Cunningham, I worked my way through that one. Correct. Yeah, that's where I'm at with that one as well. Salute! Yeah, if he gets 25 minutes, then he's absolutely a play, but they're gonna be so careful with him. Head to head, I don't know that you can even play him, and that's why I've got him stashed on the Roto side. There was an 8 cat and 9 cat. Yeah, some of these burger yeah, I mean, there is a difference. I typically lean 9 cat, so you have to sort of peel back a little bit if there's a guy that's got value because of low turnovers. I mean, I unfortunately, I can't really make a ton of those adjustments, but yes, the burger list is 9 cat. Someone in your league dropped Terry Rozier. What? Holy hell. This has got to be more like an 8 or 10 teamer. I mean, yes, Rozier is an absolute must add. He's been great lately. Quietly much better. Who's the drop there? That's a tough one. The drop side is the hard part. The drop side is probably Jalen Williams, but ooh, damn. Yes, that's true. The burgers, if it's a burger, I'm streaming them in 9 cat. But it's a good question though, because like some of those guys that are that's like a one burger of a guy who averages like a half a turnover a game, he might not be an 8 cat start. I trade Fox and Time Lord for LeBron. Yes. I can also do Ingram, Dinwiddie, or Rozier instead of Time Lord. I would do Fox. I'd rather keep Time Lord, but you're punting rebounds and turnovers. So, yeah, Time Lord probably makes the most sense in your build. If you weren't punting those two things, I think I would trade Fox and Dinwiddie. I think he probably falls back to like right on the fringe when Pokuševski and Jeremiah Robinson Earl come back, but I don't know when they're coming back, so don't really worry about it right now. And I did. So that's when the Q&A started. I don't know how many things have come in since then. I got to warn you guys, if you're just still throwing questions in there, the answers are going to get real short. Hit on a little bit of that. I'm going to do some more of that on Twitter. I love that. That's good enthusiasm there. I'm about to trade for bogeys averaging. Should I give the owner a player who averages 25 or higher? I think I would try to keep it around where he's at. I did. I brought the volume down a bit. A few things in there. Rank these 4. Zion, Siakam, Bane, Şengün. I've got it Bane, Siakam, Zion, Şengün. Let's see. What? He'll go earlier than I'll take him. I know he's amazing, but he's going to have some rookie stuff. Someone's going to take him in like the second round, and he's like, he might get there by the end of the year, but there's some big dudes in the NBA that he's not playing against right now. Guys that are just gonna knock him on his butt. That's gonna be the thing. It's not gonna be the game part. It's gonna be the speed and power part, I think, that he runs into a little trouble. So I'm not even thinking about it, honestly, because someone's gonna take him before me. There's just 0 question. Maybe the plan is let somebody take him in the 3rd. He gets off to, like, a 6th or 7th round start, and then perhaps you could give up, like, 5th for him. Is Saban Lee actually good? Not really. He's fine. And my board fell on my head. People climbing around in the room behind me. I drafted Time Lord in the 10th round and stashed this long on IL, but he doesn't fit my team. Hunting rebounds tournament, where should I aim it? If you can get a top 50 for him, I think you should be able to get top 50 back. You might have to wait a little bit longer, but I feel like that's kind of in play. I didn't vote. I don't get into the All-Star stuff. I like the Saturday stuff. I like the 3-point contest and dunk and all that crap. I'm up 210 points in my head-to-head matchup against our league number 1 seed, OG Anunoby, and my worst player. Should I hold? Yeah, I mean, if you're crushing, don't make a snap decision because of 1 week dropping a guy who's been quite good. Hey, you're welcome, by the way, for doing this. Who would you drop to bring back someone from IL? TJ McConnell, Kyle Slomo, or Jalen Williams? That's tough. You gotta I mean, you kinda need to see what fits your team the most. McConnell and Slomo are a little bit redundant. Neither really hits the 3. They both get defensive stats, assists, rebounds, and good percentages. Williams is gonna probably do more on the rebounding department. They all get a lot of steals. There's a redundancy thing here going on. Among these guys, Jalen Williams to me is the only one that could have full rest of season appeal, so I don't think I could drop him. And so you're just guessing, does Cat come back before Halliburton? We just don't know. I think Cat probably beats Halliburton back, but I'm sorry, I don't have it in on those teams, so I don't really know for sure. Following you on Twitter's created a logjam at the bottom of my roster. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you got a good team. What are you gonna do? How high am I on Nicholas Claxton? He's been awesome. I'm as high as he's been. I don't see any real reason for him to drop off. I think he's been, where is he now? Top 35 per game? Somehow. I mean, this is despite being a punt free throw guy in every respect. His blocks in particular are the thing. I mean, his value is pretty heavily tied up in blocks, and field goal percent. Traditional kind of the 2 big manny stats. But I don't see any reason why he should fall outside of the top 50. I'd be flabbergasted if he fell outside the top 50. He could fall out of the top 40 with a few bad games, but I'd say top 50 almost guaranteed. It's true. I blasphemed rye bread. Sorry, Beans. Punt points, 3-point made, best strategy. This is a tough question. I do end up punting points in Roto sometimes, but you can't punt 2 things in Roto or you'll almost definitely lose unless you basically win everything else. In head-to-head, yeah, I mean, they do kind of go hand in hand because if you're not a big scoring team, you're probably not having a bunch of guys that are jacking up threes because you want a handful of dudes with good percentages, meaning they're probably getting near the bucket, getting fouled, and then making their free throws. So, yes, those 2 things do go hand in hand a little bit. Can you name back-end players for 12, 14, 16? Oh, boy. 12-teamers, I tend to shoot for anybody that's ranked in the double digits, meaning 99 or better. But you could probably extend that to about 110. 14-teamers, you probably add about another 20-ish slots there, so about 130. 16-teamers, you're looking for top 150 typically or better. Roughly. That's a very rough estimation. Hey, anybody that's tuning in here at the end of our Q&A, please make sure to hit like and subscribe on the YouTube page. I know there's a handful of you that are sort of coming and going here, so trying to get you guys with that. Better rest of season in points league, Terrence Mann or Seth Curry? I'll go Terrence because, Curry, very not trustworthy when that team's at full strength. Mann, I think, is at least going to play right now. They will not trade Russell Westbrook 2 weeks from now. That's my guess. I think the Lakers have settled into this thing. I think they're going to make fringy moves, which is really upsetting. But they're crazy as it sounds, Russ has actually been their best player a few games recently because he brings an energy that other guys don't have. Trading Russ does make them better, but losing him actually now makes them worse, which is not something that was the case earlier this year or last year. I have no thoughts on Brandon Ingram's injury. He's freaking gone. But what are you going to do? You can't trade him. What are you going to get back? Nobody thinks he's coming back ever. So you'll get like a top 100 guy that doesn't even help your team. You kind of just have to wait it out, which sucks. Shea, Laurie, or someone else? Probably Laurie Markkinen, because Shea was going at like 35. Markkinen was going at like 80. Brooke Lopez, I'll throw in the mix as someone who's going near 140 that's been inside the top 30 all season long. I have a lot of Markkinens and a lot of Lopez's. They were on the old man squad. Shea wasn't on the old man squad, although if you guys remember, we did a show right before the season started with Josh Lloyd where I asked him, I was like, you think now that the news is breaking, this is like 5 days before the season, the news broke that Shea was going to be ready for the season opener. I said, do you think that's going to push his ADP back up into the teens or like around 20 where he was going before that preseason injury? And Josh said, no, I think it's too late. I don't think people are going to make that adjustment. And he was right. He kept going in the 30s and 40s. And so he then became a steal also. Claxton is a steal as well. And the hat of the day, these are the Visalia Oaks. They don't exist anymore. They became the Rawhide in 2009. But I love this thing. Look at that. That's an angry acorn. You didn't mess with an angry acorn. And I've been on for an hour and 12 minutes. So goodbye, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for all the likes and the subscribes and doing all this stuff on the YouTube page that we haven't had going before. Thank you for the hat compliment. I'm going to put that on the screen as we sign off today. But again, anybody that's not following me, again, I'll get my finger pointed in the right direction. At Dan Vespers on Twitter. We'll continue to do stuff on social media over the weekend. And then make sure to check out our next YouTube show, which is Eric Ong, Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. I tip my cap to you all.